In this episode, I was joined by a fellow Australian, Ace696, who happens to live not that far north of me here in Queensland, Australia. And that's not where our similarities end. We both got into crypto at about the same time and had similar adventures in that sector. We both stumbled into Upland, and we've both gone on to make active community engagement and UGC map asset content creation one of our main personal hobbies, which, as we both agree, isn't a normal thing to do for blokes of our age and backgrounds. We dove into some of that today, of course, as well as discussing our perspectives on a bunch of contemporary Upland news and events before switching over to focus on his ACE Collectables Metaventure series. ACE has some great perspectives and insights into his active participation in what was essentially the second wave of map asset content creators, and he's developing quite a sizable collection of very high quality UGC-created items for Upland. I hope you enjoy our chat and stick with it through some of the moments of shitty Australian internet lag, because as a bit of a heads up, it might just be worth your while. Maybe you'll come away with an ace up your sleeve thanks to 8696, who's truly flying aces high in the metaverse and beyond.
Warning, the information and opinions within are solely the views of the individuals involved, contains content not suitable for anyone.
Righty, thank you very much, and welcome back to another episode of the Metaverse and Beyond podcast series. This week we're featuring ACE696. How are we going this early AM Saturday morning, mate?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, just waking up, having my coffee, come in for a chat.
Yeah. Now, normally I don't ask this question until we dive further into things, but it might set the scene for us straight off the bat. We're both in Queensland, Australia. We're both up at, well, we're up before 6 a.m., but here we are sitting in our prospective little areas away from the family and whatnot at 6 a.m. to talk about Upland. We're both middle-aged men. What the hell are we doing here?
I ask myself the same question sometimes. I just, as soon as I got into Upland, I always love it, and I just, I decided I'm going to dedicate some time to it. I see a future here, and if there's something you want to do well at or you want to be part of, sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and do some things you don't want to do, like constantly get up early.
Yes, well, just as well for us that we're both early birds, shall we say, with what we got going on in the real life situation. So I guess that helps in trying to deal with all of the 9 a.m. PT stuff and whatnot.
Yes, definitely. Those releases. I mean, I've heard you touch on them many times before. It would be nice if they could come up with ways to make things a little easier for everybody, but I guess you can't cater to everyone, and they seem to cater to their larger audience, which is, I guess, how most businesses work anyway. So if we want to be a part,
Yep.
we'll shit the bed and wake up.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. That's one of those things I've complained about it for the longest time, but it always comes back for careful what you wish for. If they suddenly change it to 9 a.m. our time, well, I'm not going to be able to do any of this stuff anyway because I can't have my phone at work. So, it is what
Exactly right. I'll be driving a truck, so that would pretty much put me out. So sometimes I think exactly the same. I'm like, well, you know what? It's only a couple of hours more than I'd usually wake up, and so just get up and do it if I want to be a part of it. And truth be told, I'm a bit more picky. When I first started, you get that FOMO. You've got to be a part of everything.
Yep.
The longer you play, the more you realise you don't have to be part of absolutely everything that comes out. So I just sort of try to keep up with news and hope that they give us at least a little bit of notice and try to pick the things that I might want to be part of. So
It's the city releases. I'm totally fine with that. I think it actually helps to be able to get up and get involved as much as I can. If I only want to smash and grab something, I can usually go straight back to sleep. If I want to get more involved, I've got a good 3, 4, 5 hours before I have to go to work and that stuff. The only thing that still grinds my gears is this whole registration for a sale bloody thing. Get up at 2 a.m. to see you're 1,000th in line, and it was pointless to get up.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. I get a lot of that, and I usually just click okay. Yep, no, I'm 887th, and all right, it's time to go back to sleep.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Now, if you don't know, ACE696 is the Metaventure behind the ACE Collectables series. A lot of cool stuff going on there. I guess we'll check that out a bit later on. Fair bit happening in the Upland at the moment. Like we had that, there was about a month there where there wasn't a lot going on, and as always seems to be the case, bada bing, bada boom, we're suddenly snowballed. We've got stuff coming out of our ears everywhere. We got totems, sparklet, staking, bloody racing, gamified leaderboards, new season. It's all happening. Well, what are you most engaged in at present?
Right now, I mean, Sparklet obviously has my attention the most. Um, some people are frustrated with the price and how things sort of have gone, but for me, I've always been bullish on Sparklet. So to be able to get it cheaper is for me a great opportunity. Uh, yeah, that's and then the whole airdrop scenarios going on. I try to obviously capture as much of that. I guess we all have different opinions on this sort of how much is being just shoveled into the community right now. Once upon a time, it was a whole lot harder to get. I
Oh
guess
yeah,
we'll see effects as time goes on. Um, yeah.
yeah. We were just talking before we got kicked off that we were both looking at the charts at the moment and thinking that it's looking pretty juicy for either a nice big green candle or a nice big red one.
One Definitely one of the
Yeah,
two is going to happen very, very shortly. I'd say in the next few hours, we'll find out the direction for the short term. It
yeah,
was
very much
trending
so.
quite nicely. I
Mm,
really did think that it was going to have itself a little pullback there, and it was going to push again. But
yep.
it decided. I think I was sort of hovering around the BTC chart as well. And I think Bitcoin started heavily fluctuating once it got sort of past that 59 into that 59.62 range. So I think people were sort of getting rid of their alts and more concentrating on Bitcoin potentially, maybe.
Mm. Yeah, now that's one of the fascinating things about it is that now it's all tied up with the wider ecosystem. So yeah,
Correct. Yes.
interesting,
That's so I
interesting.
think a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of people in Upland who have had no exposure to the crypto market.
Yep.
So there's a lot of learning curve there, and understanding that Sparklet is not now just based on Upland. Okay, yes, we use it for Upland, but it's, as you just said, it's a whole nother ecosystem now, and crypto is a whole nother monster. The money floating around in the cryptoverse, it is mind boggling, to be totally honest. So
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at the volumes and stuff that's going on there. It's incredible. Yeah, that's the
I'm actually
BTC chart now. Mm.
I was quite impressed actually with, I think it's the HTC, the volume there for Sparklet is,
Yep.
in crypto terms, it's nothing excessive, but holding in that sort of what I believe it's anywhere between sort of 6 to 9 million at times, daily trading volume is not bad volume at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always, whenever I pull it up, I always bring up that chart because it always has the most volume. Um,
Yeah.
and that's not the one that's kind of getting pushed the most in the upland community. So it shows there is interest there from the crypto space that may not even fully understand what it is. They're just playing with the figures.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what are we looking at here? Yeah, it's by far the most HTX 3.6 mil, and where's BitGet 35,000. It's
Yeah, it's
big
well down, big
big
get.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I've been sort of mucking around a little bit on BitGet only because I opened that account purely for the
Yep.
Upland. Um, but yeah, with the lack of volume there, I'm seriously considering, moving my USDT over and trading elsewhere because trying to get that volume and depth in the market is not easy to execute certain orders. So Yeah, with 35,000 trading volume, you're trying to execute a $1,500 order, and you've got
Going to
a few,
blow out the entire chart.
5% of the trading volume for the day, exactly. So,
Yeah.
and I'm by no means a whale. Yeah. So,
What was your Spark balance before we transferred over to Sparklet?
so I was 13.15. I'd found my way up to, which obviously everybody wants more, but I was quite happy with. It was accomplishing everything I'd set out to accomplish on my early stages. And then I got dropped an additional 13.8 for the buyer's reward. So it effectively
Yep.
doubled my spark. And I've hunted to the area of somewhere around about 9 spark, give or take.
Mm.
So we'll see how that plays out with those future drops as to where that puts me. So
And we're just looking at your chart here now, your city chart. I guess your web's in Queens, as many people did back in the day.
yes, very much so. That was I sort of, when I first started, I started in Chicago, flopping around, no idea what I was doing, as people do. And
Yep.
then I met up with a guy, Kerry M, really good guy. Um, and he sort of had said to me, you've got all these props. I'd already started moving to Queens. He's like, you should be hunting. And I had tried the very basic hunting once, and I was like, what's this silly shit? This is ridiculous. I couldn't even find it, had no idea where I was going. And he helped me refine it a lot. I've never been a competitive hunter, just grinding standards, but we sort of back and forth and help motivate one another to keep going each day. And you know, uh, when Spark was worth 460, it was like I thought to myself, well, I've made $4,000 or $5,000 worth of Spark, over the time of hunting.
Yep.
And it enabled me to. I wanted to be part of the creative process very early on, and this, managed to do that for me. So without piling thousands and thousands of dollars into Spark, it was just a time.
Yeah. I guess it kind of shows how important those early connections are, like that you make within the community. How did you get tied up with him? Was it through the Discord or somewhere else?
Discord has been amazing. I always recommend to people, I see people on Facebook and stuff like that, and there's not as much information out there and not as much sort of good communication. Discord was amazing. I connected with a lot of great people through Discord, and still do to this day. Two and a bit years later, there's still new people I'm meeting, and new information I'm getting, and new insights and whatnot. So Discord, in my opinion, is by far the best platform for connecting with new people.
And were you already on Discord as part of some of the things you're involved in, or was this purely for Upland?
No, not really. Not really. I've not really ever been involved in a whole lot of internet stuff, I guess you could say. In the past,
Yep.
this was my first sort of big venture into this sort of thing. So Discord was very new to me as well, and it was just
Mm.
through the Upland side or something. I was like, okay, I think I remember this Discord thing, and just worked it all out. And yeah, it was, it's quite simple. And I've always found the people there, I guess depending on the time of day you come in, and what happens to be going on in Upland at the time, the people are quite good there. Naturally, if something's ticked the community off, heading to Upland General might not be the best thing for a new player.
Yeah.
Things might not look so great as a newcomer at that point, but there's plenty of people that hang there that are very informative and very willing to help. I've seen just recently we were talking, I guess the entire BitGet idea was to start bringing new players to Upland, which is what we always want.
Yep.
And I've seen, I wouldn't say an influx, but I've definitely seen new people coming through general, asking questions, and the community there is just always really helpful, which is a good thing, because it's daunting coming into this, especially if you have no idea on what you're coming into. And if somebody can help you minimize those very early mistakes, that can be
Yes.
very yeah, we all did it. If we didn't have much knowledge of this game, I came in and way overpaid for certain things and buying up X from the store, and then just paying ridiculous markup because I didn't understand how markup worked and what mint prices were and all of these sorts of things. So some very basic info can go a very long way. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too, like because of the way it's set up with the international community, a lot of the times, like you be the same as me, I would imagine. Like you finally get everything sorted out with work, you sit down, okay, I've got 20 minutes to go and check out what's going on in Discord in the evening. That's our kind of chill out time, but that's kind of peak um, insomniacs and drunkards from the other areas of the world up. So there's all sorts of
yeah,
shenanigans going.
some agreed. Sometimes I'll go to pop in there and I'm like, man, what are they even going on about? Okay, I'll just check. I'll say hello and catch you later. Have a good night. So yeah, definitely. I think the morning my time, our time is sort of the most active. I guess it's probably middle of the day for
Yep.
the most part of them, and you get a lot of good insights and things, and just some good conversations at times. So sometimes it's good to go there and not even talk about Upland and just get to connect with people on a hey, how you doing kind of level.
Yep. And you were saying before we got kicked off that you were scrolling through there in general last night, and there was a bit of stuff going on as far as some of the airdrops and whatnot.
Yeah, so somebody had popped in and just started asking questions on when certain airdrops were still coming, and then there was a couple that looked very like there's a 35 million in BitGet, and then a 3.5 million for like connecting to BitGet, which we think is in Upland. And so it was like, is there a typo in one of them that one that they're both meant to be either 35 million, or is it two different things, or and there is a lot going on with all of these airdrops, so it just gets a little confusing even for a seasoned player. I'm trying to understand where all these airdrops are coming from, what I have to do to participate in them. So as a newer player coming in, it would be a whole lot more confusing. Would be nice if they
Oh, I
could
can't even imagine it. Yeah.
yeah, it would be nice if they could sort of, instead of just putting out this entire sheet with information that's just so hard to consume all of it in one time, just maybe put individual posts where it's like, okay, this is one and this is the things you need to do for it. This is another and these are the things you need to do for it. And kind of give it a little bit of space where people have got time to like process that information before trying to process the next one. So I was just like, well, I know BitGet's a big part of it, so connect BitGet to my Upland, bridge some Spark in, and participate in the gamified earnings, and hope that gets me what's coming, I guess.
Yes. And I guess it must have, Upland's pretty good at this. If they see some contention or some confusion in the community, they often quickly follow up as best they can to clarify things. So 4:30 a.m. our time this morning, Lisette has made a post here, saying that no, they've double checked all the leaderboards and it's tracking correctly, and kind of, you know, shown that there's two different separate leaderboards there. So hopefully that kind of helps ease some of that confusion. But it does always seem to be a case of, you know, the dog chasing its tail. Like they put the information out there, everyone scratches their heads and say, "Hey, what's going on with this?" It often becomes a case of waiting until certain members like YK 2012 or other of the broadcasters, or Shackleton or Nosif or some of them crew, kind of digest it, and then they put it together in a more digestible, understandable way. It's always like a
Yes.
two-step process.
And I guess that is a good thing about why we have the Upland community, because interpretation is a funny thing. Some people can read things and interpret it one way, and somebody can read the exact
Yep.
same thing and interpret it a completely different way, as we've found out many times. So I
Yes.
think when the broadcasters kind of come together and collectively find a middle ground on where we believe it is most likely this is the true story, it definitely helps put a lot of information out there for people. So
Yeah, man, we've seen that as well with the airdrop stuff. As far as players that bought their Spark got airdropped a certain amount. There's even myself, and I was in the meeting, and I still blows my mind that okay, that's not what I thought was going to happen at all. It's like a whole different
yes,
process for
yeah.
the people that earn this.
I think we all thought there was going to be 2 drops, and I did up until literally I watched your show the other night where you confirmed that the earned ones will be done through the gamified earnings through the season. So
Yeah,
I was under the assumption that I was still yet to get another drop for them, and then the gamified earnings one was just a sort of a bonus for everybody thereafter. But clearly, yeah,
clearly
we
not.
all misinterpreted
Yes.
that one.
Yeah,
So,
I wasn't arguing with Swiley, but he was. This is in DM leading up to that. He's saying no. People are saying it's this, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute. That's not the vibe I had, and I was in the bloody meeting. I thought it was this, and turns out it was
yeah,
that. So yeah. It's
yeah.
always a bit of a strange one. That one. Um, where should we go to
What
next?
what do
There's a
you
lot going on there. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
what do you personally take on the airdrops? What are your thoughts?
When I was in that meeting, normally in those sort of meetings, I usually walk away from that kind of scratching my head a bit or thinking, "Oh, okay, well, we'll see how this goes." When they outlined that in that UCM broadcasters meeting about how they were going to do these airdrops to, as part of the process of going live on crypto, I thought, actually, this is really positive. Obviously, everybody who's been in the crypto space or has anything to do with it knows what's going to happen to the price. It's just it ain't going to come out the gate at $46 each. It's just not going to
Yeah,
happen, or whatever it was, $4.60.
yeah,
Or even if it did come out the gate, we knew what was going to happen straight after. So I thought that was
yeah.
good that they'd kind of proactively kind of almost baked in a bit of a cushion for that. I didn't think I was going to get airdropped, 59,000 sparklet or something. That was when that came through. I was like, what the? That was
Yeah,
way beyond what I was thinking.
yeah. Do you think it's going to have a positive or negative impact on how things go? Are you still on the fence on how that's, I know it's not always great to speculate, but yeah, I sort of like to ask people what their thoughts are on like I said earlier, the Sparklet once upon a time wasn't as easy to get your hands on, and
Yep.
now it's just being sort of it's raining Spark, and it's like is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? You know, um,
Um, I guess we won't really get a read on that until, like, we all know there's a massive rebalancing coming. You're a UGC content creator. You have a certain
yeah,
amount of Spark staked and whatnot. Um,
yeah,
yeah, we won't have an accurate feel of that until that rebalancing comes. It may be a situation where I had 30 Spark before the airdrop, and now I've got, which
yeah,
is 30,000 Sparklet. Now I've got 90,000 grinding towards 100,000. Well, it might turn out that that's not enough. Who
yes.
knows? You just don't
Yes,
know.
that's yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the big
So
thing, the unknown of how they're going to do the conversion, and I hope that it's really sort of given a lot of deep thought on how they're going to do that and how it's going to affect everything. And then how frequently they intend on adjusting it, because again, we're in crypto, and 1 minute it could be at 3.5 cents, and the next minute it could be at $1, and it's not unrealistic in the crypto market for these sort of things to happen. Um,
yep.
so I sort of had thought to myself, maybe they might work with the seasons and
Yeah,
adjust
that's exactly.
based on the
Yep.
average across a season, and then sort of average it out and adjust each time, sort of thing. So that's my sort of thought of how it may continue. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to find out though, when they adjust the hours. Naturally, we know everything's going to require a lot more spark hours than it currently does. We're already sort of preparing ourselves for that. Um, my only concern, sorry, my only concern there is, like, I run medium factories. Um, are they going to adjust the allowable spark in a factory, because it could severely slow down production, despite the fact that you have all this spark, and that's great, but if you still only have maybe one or two factories, uh, it's going to severely cut down how much you can produce at a time. So if they adjust it to a 3-to-1 ratio, are they going to adjust the factory on a 2 or 3-to-1 ratio to allow you to still produce the same? So again, I guess, standard Upland, there's a lot of unknowns, and we just speculate until the time comes, and then adjust accordingly. So I
Yeah,
have recently
absolutely.
started acquiring new factories and getting them up and running. At the moment, it's great. I'm pumping a lot of stuff out, but I'm expecting it to naturally cut back quite a lot. So I thought, well, I could either sit here and sort of wait, and then jump up and down, or try to knee jerk react when things happen, or I could just understand that things are going to change, and start preparing by acquiring new factories, and being prepared for that drop. So
Yeah, well, you've raised a lot of good points there. We'll kind of backtrack a bit and unpack some of that. Um, yeah, I had the same thought as well. It would make sense that they tied any rebalancing to seasons, but even that might be too. It might be too often. They may go quarterly or something like that, because every time they're going to change something like that, it's going to break and glitch out, and there's going to be drama. So, how often they
true.
want to play with that whole side of things, that's yet to be determined. They can't really win. Like, if you do it too often, it's it's not going to be good. If they do it not often enough, it's not going to be good. That's going to be really tricky to find the balance. But yeah, I think you're right there in
Yeah.
tying it to some existing structure that the community is already familiar with. Like, every season, we're almost starting from afresh, or
Yes.
retroactively
Yeah.
from afresh. So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised to see that. When Just to kind of put a bow on how I felt with the whole sparklet thing, like, leading up to that, I had every intention to get 10 of my spark out, because I was pretty certain what was going to happen with the price. Um,
Yeah.
Sell it as soon as I could, wait for the ask to drop out of it, and maybe take some out, or buy back in a bit more. Um,
Yep.
Once I saw where we came out the gate with the price, I just kind of backed away and closed the door. And I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole, with any of it, with bridge and
Yep.
sparklet or buying or selling. I'm just not going anywhere near it.
Okay. Right. Yeah. I never ever intended on selling it, unless it came out and it was, $5 a sparklet, and I could make some serious money. And quite obviously, it's not going to hold at that short term.
Yep.
I utilize my sparklet. That's why I purchased it in the first place. It's why I grinded. So really, the price doesn't affect anything for me. The utility in Upland hasn't changed, and that's why I got it in the first place, because everyone needs to remember, when we first got Sparklet, we bought it or hunted for it under the assumption that it was locked to our account,
Yes.
and that's all that was ever going to happen. So this
Yep.
is a game changer, and I always say we're in an ever evolving space, and so you just have to readjust and evolve as things happen, because this isn't the first major change, and it's not going to be the last.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we could get it directly on an Australian exchange, I would definitely start dollar cost averaging into it and building a bag. But even then, I don't know how the ATO, the Australian Tax Office, I don't know how they're going to treat that. Like, once you bridge your Spark over, it's leaving the the platform you bought it on, and it's
Yep.
is Upland a wallet that you're moving it to? It's not really a wallet. You're using it. It's got functionality. Is that a taxable event? It's just
Yes.
such a grey area. Yeah.
And technically, I mean, if you look on the blockchain, we're not even moving it to our wallet. We're moving it to the Upland wallet because we don't hold our keys in
Yeah.
Upland. So it is technically leaving our possession, so to speak, in the form of custodial. So yeah, that is interesting. I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. I'll let you know how that goes for me.
Yeah. And you're using that to make NFTs that you sell for an in-game currency or USD, and from that
Yeah,
you buy other NFTs or other items. Yeah, it's just a minefield. That's why I just said, you know what, I'm just going to sit this out at least for 6 months, wait for the
yeah,
rebalancing, at least get past this year's tax period, because as you know, I pulled out a fairly significant for me amount this year and did a lot with it. I've still got to pay all that tax, so I'm not looking to
yeah,
double down on my burden straight away
yeah.
with so many unknowns.
And that's good. That's amazing that Upland's given that opportunity, and that's people should look to that and go, that's something to aspire to. That with enough time in game and grinding, that you can actually impact your life outside of Upland, which is amazing. So
Yes, well, there's actually that might be a good segue into pulling up this latest airdrop mission that Upland did. Where's that? Here we go. So there's one of these airdrop missions you got to do. You had to quote tweet this thing. Upland's got a thing here. We put this video together to help explain what Upland is all about. How do you explain Upland to your friends? Have you done this one yet? What was your answer?
I quoted it. I don't think I actually quoted as to how I explain it to my friends because, truth be told, I don't really talk about Upland a lot outside of it because anytime you do, you just kind of get this blank stare of,
The eyes glaze over.
of what the hell are you even going on about? You
Yep.
say the word metaverse and NFTs, and the average mum and pop consumer has absolutely no idea what you're going on about.
Yep.
The thing I definitely always do give credit to Upland for is that we're in the crypto space, and we were in the crypto space before we even became a crypto with Sparklet. That's many people didn't even understand that. We run on blockchain technology, which is in the crypto space, but Upland has done a really good job at sort of, I guess you could say, disguising that, making it very
Yep.
easy to access things without all these crazy wallets and transferring things. Naturally, now if you want to partake in Sparklet, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But they have done really well in that aspect where it's made it easy for the average consumer. And I've always said, to get the average consumer into crypto, it needs to be a lot easier because it's confusing as shit. The
Yes.
crypto space is very confusing.
And
So
unforgiving if you make a mistake.
very much so. I believe it or not, I've been around crypto since 2016. I'd never made a mistake until just the other day. I was tired and shouldn't have been moving things around. It wasn't a lot of money, but I lost a bit of
Yep.
wax because I just missed one digit, and I wasn't able to copy and paste the memo for some reason. The address was right, the memo missed a digit, and goodbye wax. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah, so it can
Yeah.
happen to literally anybody, and like you say, it's unforgiving. Once it's sent, there isn't anybody to call and say, "Hey, mate, I messed up. Can I get my money back?" So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, I bought into when I first got involved with Upland, it was because it was marketed as monopoly on the blockchain. So, it
y-
can be all of that and above. That's the beauty of it. It did and it can get the crypto people in because they can see what it is. Obviously, there's a whole, you don't have your keys thing
yeah,
that people would balk at. But then it gets, just your regular mums and pops and whoever else to come and have a play because of all the other different aspects who might have no clue about the crypto side of things, no interest in that side of things. So I think Upland's primed in that perfect sweet spot for that. We just got to wait and see how we go. Now, my answer to this was, as you said, yeah, I've talked with various people about Upland ever since I started playing, even people that I knew from the crypto space, and they never really got it. So my answer here kind of summed it up. I've said here, I've never had much luck explaining it until this year. Now it's easy. Upland equals the magical internet money platform that has paid for most of our 2024 home renovations and extensions and all of the new tattoos I've got. So once people see that, they go, "Oh, okay. What is it again? What do you
Yes,
do?" They're kind of
exactly. Yeah, as normal, most people just want to hear the bottom line, which is how much money
yeah,
have you made?
yeah.
So when you can actually put a figure to that, that really, rings true. Then that okay, this isn't just internet money, that's floating around in space that I can't really do anything with. I can actually turn this into real dollars and do real things with it. So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's that goes back to like the 2017 ICO madness when I was involved in that. And, I'd show one of my sisters who lives around the corner, I'd show her the balance on the phone, your account balance with all the different coins you're holding and that. And her eyes would bug out.
yep,
She's like, "Are you going to withdraw all that?" And like, obviously, hindsight's a bitch. Obviously, I should have withdrawn it. Would have near paid the mortgage off. But
I agree.
you're always thinking, "No, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing." So, she kind of rolled her eyes at that. If you're not going to do anything with it, well, what's the point? She came around the other day,
Yeah,
and we got 3 new concrete slabs in. We got that pod thing, storage pod around the side of the house. She's like, "Where'd all this come from?" I was like, "That magical internet money you were laughing at me about? Yeah, here it is."
right there.
So,
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
I actually, we obviously must have sort of got into the crypto space around that sort of similar time because yeah, the ICOs were just going crazy and everyone's throwing ETH at absolutely anything they can, waiting for that 10x and 100x and all that sort of stuff. Um, and then I think the market just got absolutely flooded and people got a little bit sick of them and a few people got burned by
yep,
scam ones that disappeared and all that sort of stuff, which
me,
happens
yep,
everywhere. Um, and I was fortunate enough. I got I don't know if you're familiar with it, a coin jar card.
yep,
You could put I think it was just Bitcoin at the time. I can't remember 100%, and you could just spend it like real dollars. Um, Back then, well, I mean, I never received a tax bill, but back then there was no real sort of regulations on how it was going. So you could just spend your Bitcoin and it was great. I'd just go up to the pizza shop and buy some pizza for the family off my crypto and happy days. It was great. Um, but I was in the same boat. I mean, my wife was screaming at me, "You need to sell that stuff." I'm like, "No, it's just going to keep going to the moon. We're going to retire." So, had no idea what I was doing in
yep.
the very early stages. I think we all got caught up in that. But I was fortunate enough to make a little something off it, and for the little amount I put in, and had some fun and learnt some lessons. And so, win or learn, I say.
Yeah, I was probably 6 months too late. If I did this thing where, like, pretty much all of my crypto stuff came from a couple of $100 that I put in. I had
Yeah,
a couple of very early wins that put me in a really good position. So I was kind of ICO hopping. I started off with point 0.5 Ethereum or something, and then I'd had that to 5 Ethereum, and then the next ICO I got that to 20 Ethereum. Um, the ICO that I put the 20 Ethereum into crashed and burned and became nothing. If I had have got one more bite at that cherry, of course you don't know. Maybe I would have been greedy and thought, okay, I'm going to put this 150 Ethereum into the next one. Who knows?
yeah,
Who knows how that would have went? But yeah, I was just that one
yeah.
step short of making some serious coin.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I was very, very similar there as well. Yeah, and I think we all got caught up in it. We thought it was the train was just going to keep running forever. I guess so. Yeah, But too many people with too much knowledge on how to fleece people from their cryptos jumped into the space at that point of time, which is pretty standard. Where there's big money to be made, there's always going to be those bad actors that come on board, isn't there? That's not just the crypto space; that's anywhere. So.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Upland as well. There's always somebody who started before you who knows the lay of the land a bit better than you do, and is more primed to take
Yes.
advantage of certain opportunities.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now, what else we got going on at the moment? We've got gamified earnings. I pulled up the leaderboard for that because I haven't actually checked in myself. How are you going with your ones for getting ready for next season?
So I've got 7. So I've got the bare minimum for the 14.7, which always make sure I get those minimum tasks accomplished. I never complete them all. Referrals and these things I don't manage to do, but there's still a couple that are missing that I think should be on there. But the airdrop one and the Track Hero still haven't updated. Oh, the login for 7 days still hasn't updated, but yeah, that should have technically updated by now. Where are we? The 10th, so 8th their time. Maybe it'll update in the next 24 hours, I guess. I noticed some people have had it, and yeah, so
I think that's
I never
tied
miss a
to
login.
when you collect your login bonus. So it depends. It could be either side, I
True. Yeah.
think. So if your login bonus it doesn't tick over till tomorrow or something, maybe it'll update after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
ours
you've
comes
got
in
the
at 5 o'clock, so.
mm,
So I'm working on the structures. I will get the 12. So I've worked out that I want the 12 because I want that. Is it 15.1? And then we also get
the
that
extra.
multiplier for the airdrop.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but
Yes.
the Track
So what do you
Hero
got?
and the airdrop, they've announced that there are issues with that registering on the leaderboard. So
Yep. Well, that says you got the Track Hero one there.
oh,
You're good to
okay.
go.
Oh, that updated overnight. I haven't checked that this morning, so happy days. So
Yeah.
basically, I've got to finish my 5 structures, which I'm probably about 10 days away from,
Yep.
and then my 2 login bonuses. I get my 12, and that's the thing. I'm not a huge ornament person.
Yep.
Just a personal preference. So yeah, I'd sort of ticked off. Okay, what am I focusing on, and what ones am I not going to get? So, but credit to them, they've made it pretty easy this time to at least one
Yes.
just get the bare minimum to get your. I think it's 6, is it, to get your 14.7?
5, I believe. Yeah,
5.
5, I
It
think.
was
Mm.
extremely easy then to do it, and to get the 12, I think, was still very, very accomplishable if you participated in the bridging and things like that. Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even looked at this to even try and attempt to do anything with it yet. I will eventually. Obviously, I'll get that one. I've only got 3 points at the moment, so I'll get that. That's 1, 2, 3. Travel's an easy one.
yeah,
4 public races, no, I won't do that. That's a pain in the butt. 5 structures, I'll probably do that because I'm building a whole bunch of stuff at the moment. So what's that?
yeah,
3, 4, 5. Won't be burning, won't be getting a referral bonus. I will be buying 3 items, visit the 5 properties. I mean, if I get to 11 and that'd be an easy one to do. Bridge and Sparklet, not doing that. Track Hero, won't doing that. Receive a badge, yeah, I burnt the season pass thing, so I got that. Sizzle ornament, I'll get that one. So yeah, I might get there.
consider the Track
But yeah,
Hero.
I
Track Hero
definitely
is really, really easy.
is
You
it?
literally don't. When you can stake as little as 100 UpX on a race, which most people just participate in, and so for
Yep.
literally 200 UpX, in the event that you don't even come a place and win nothing back, you can tick that off, which is
Mm,
for somebody with your sort of earnings and whatnot. I guess 200 UpX is a viable thing let go to potentially get that extra boost.
Yeah, it was the reason I kind of balked from those ones. It was never really about the having to stake the UPEX. It's just that because of our time zone, it's always been a hassle to get somebody. Like if I set up a race and stake it there, just sits there endlessly, I'm going to lose interest at looking at that screen pretty damn quickly.
There's a couple of communities that actually do like racing amongst their communities and stuff on that Track Hero and have leaderboards and stuff. So I've actually found sort of in our 6 to 12 o'clock range in the day, I can head there, and there's usually anywhere from 3 to 6 people floating around there. So yeah, it was a pretty easy one for me to tick off. I did that, I think, on the first or second day. And at first I thought I must have done it too early or something because it wasn't registering. Then obviously asked the questions, and it was just a glitch in the system, but all fixed up now as Upland does. That's the one thing with Upland. Okay, we come in with some bugs and we have some issues along the way, but I think if you're patient enough, they always come to the party and fix things up. A lot of the things we're still doing is still new, so you've got to understand that it's not always going to work perfect the first time round.
Rarely does.
So,
yeah.
So I'm a lot more accepting of that now. I'm like, okay, something's glitching out. Righty, I'll give it a few days and I'll ask a couple of questions if it's still happening.
Yeah, I can probably take that back to the point you made previously when you were talking about how you're currently picking up new factories, and there's a bit of concern there about how this rebalancing is going to go with that whole thing. Like once at the very first iteration of manufacturing map assets, it was okay. You've got a factory now. You can start constructing your stuff. Okay, we put these little factories up. Oh, you can only stake 2 Spark. Oh well, we'll do what we can. We kind of just got the ball rolling with that. Oh, now there's medium factories. So we all went out and bought medium factories and stuff. And now there's large factories. So what the? It was like, It was just as soon as we got done, as soon as we started, it was like, now you got this, now you got this. I was like, God, couldn't you just waited an extra? We waited 2 years or something at that point. Couldn't you wait an extra 2 weeks?
Yes, yeah, I know there was a big rollout with them, and I actually didn't notice that there was all these version 2s and whatnots of the factories and showrooms and whatnot for a while, because it was that's just the showroom I've always been building. I just go and build that one. I'm like, oh, okay, there's different versions of them now, and there's different versions of the factories, and a couple of people got caught out because they thought being medium they can still stake 10 Spark in them, but I think the version 2 medium you can only stake 8 Spark in. So
really?
they're sitting there
trying
to put that 10 in, and they're like, why is it not accepting that extra 2 Spark? And a little bit of diving into it, and sure enough, it only takes 8 Spark. So something that when people ask me, I'm like, well, just be aware, okay, you might be trying to fit a certain factory on a certain thing, but if you're looking to get that maximum Spark on there, you need to take into consideration version 2 only 8 Spark. Very much like the small factory, I did the original one, like you say, is only 2 Spark, and you're not really getting much out of that factory. But there's another small factory that actually allows you to put 4 in it. So
yeah, well, there you
which
go.
is a lot better.
I forgot. I wrote it down when you were talking about that. I forgot to ask. You said you're acquiring new factories. Are you going out and minting the land, or are you buying up the completed factories on the secondary market?
So I was looking around for factories on the secondary market. So prior to Sparklet even coming out on the thing, I was already looking to expand, and I always found myself with a few extra Spark just sort of sitting around. I thought, well, at the 13.1, I could split it up, 7 and 6.1, and start producing more. So I went and purchased one. I sort of took a bit of negotiating back and forth, but got one in Nashville. And then just recently picked another one up in Miami. So I've got a big enough prop in LA, which is my next destination, and so I guess I'll build on that. And it just comes down to what's going to work better. If I can get one at a decent price enough on the secondary, get somebody a good sale, but versus having to go mint a property. Sometimes it is just cheaper to buy it complete. Or even if it's you're paying an extra 10 or 20% on top, but you're saving yourself a month. So I guess it all depends on how quick you need to get to where you are. But I'm at a point now where, at least with the current way things are structured, I don't need to do anything in a fast nature. So I definitely do
Yeah,
like that they finally brought things out where we could produce all things in all factories. Um, Literally, if I waited a week, because I bought the Nashville factory and I had a whole bunch of things moved, so I had to go through the support and pull things off the line and have it moved, wait multiple days, if not a week or so, to get things moved into the factory. And then it wouldn't have been more than 2 or 3 days later, they opened it up where everything was available in all factories on. Like, couldn't support, I mean, support wasn't going to give me any insider information, but couldn't they have just said, just wait? Like, literally,
yes.
they did all that work for me, when knowing full well that it was just about to unlock all of the assets. But such is life, that happens. But I believe that's made things a lot easier. And I said a long time ago, when logistics and things come in and we have to start thinking about how we're going to move things around, and people like you and me and other Metaventurists that have multiple showrooms and only maybe one factory, logistics could be a real bitch eventually. So at least if you
Yep.
have those factories in similar areas, it could money spent now could save a lot of money later on and a lot of headache. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that's opportunity now that people can, even in some cases, they can go and buy a massive plot of land that has a completed factory on it. In many cases, under mint. It's kind of insane. I did just try and pull up. Now, this is interesting. I did just try and pull this up on the web version. My factory showroom in San Francisco. The inventory lot is currently full, and as you know, the flash crashes to the white screen on the app. It just flash crashed on the browser, and now I can't load Upland. It's just showing a white screen on the browser. So something going on there. But
wow.
yeah, yeah. The reason I bring that up is the factory lot that I've got in San Francisco. This will tell you how things have changed. Obviously, San Francisco at that time, it's the Genesis City. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's not many. Most of the large properties are held by very old accounts that are not very active in the community or whatever. But there
Yep.
was a 3,365 up squared property came up. It was for sale for 2,000 US dollars or something like that. And for that size property at the time, that was a great deal. So
Yep.
obviously I don't have 2 grand USD sitting around, but what I did have was a lot of UPEX. So I worked out a deal with, I believe might have been Shackline for that one. She went and
Yep.
she purchased it for the USD, and then I
Yep.
purchased it off her for 2.15 million. Or maybe it was
Yep.
1,800 or something like that. And then I gave her a lot of extra UPEX for the deal. But yeah, if I was to spend that 2 mil now or that 1,800, imagine what I could go and buy with that.
Yes, yeah, big time. The Nashville one I actually got. I mean, that's what sort of really enticed me. That it actually wasn't a bad price to begin with, but the haggler and me had to approach him and see what I could do.
Yep.
And so I ended up getting it at a better deal. And yeah, I couldn't have minted the property and built the factory for the price that I got it at. So
Yeah.
naturally, if you can do that, why you're going to spend a month? I've also then got to stop production, so I've got to pull all of my spark out and start building, or alternatively pay somebody else to do it. So I think And I usually try to time things because I don't participate as much in city releases anymore. I sort of try to time, okay, I've built up my UpX. This is what I'm looking for. I know people are going to be looking for UpX. So now I'll go around trying to find what I want because people are more likely to be negotiable and want to sell when they need some UpX for a release or something. So when there's nothing going
Yeah,
on, naturally you're not as negotiable. You're like, well, I don't need any UpX, so I'm in no rush to sell. And then Upland makes one announcement, and all of a sudden they come back going, hey, is that offer still on the table?
yeah. Well, it's kind of what you said before. It's almost a maturing of your account and your mindset at the same time. You don't have to FOMO into all these things. There's certain patterns, certain cycles that go on, and it's just placing yourself on the right side of all of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, and you only
Trying
really
to
get that
understand
through
where we've
experience.
come from, where we're going, and you just sort of, you try to position yourself according to where you think things may happen, I guess, and we all do that in a way.
Yes, absolutely. All right, one last bit of kind of contemporary news to touch on, of course, is Totems version 2 that's just kicked off. I had a bit of a sneaky peeky into your account before and saw that you've got 0 totems, so I imagine this is going to be a very short conversation. Why have you either sold out of that or avoided it completely?
So I had a couple of totems. I mean, I bought and sold a lot of totems before it all went live. I had 2 when it started. It was just too time consuming for me. I didn't
Yep.
have the ones that you could feed once every day or 2 days or whatever sort of thing. I had the ones that you had to feed every 8 hours, and it was just too time consuming for me, to be totally honest. Like everything, I always say you can't be in absolutely everything. Where the idea of life and these sorts of things intrigues me, it's likely not something I'm going to be well into. I've got myself a very small amount of Protum that if I'm able to create some sort of little bit of life of some sort for myself when the day comes, then cool, I will. But I think people that are going really strong for it are looking at the longer term, trying to monetize, making things from it and selling and whatnot, which I have no interest in competing with. So for that fact, I basically set it out. If I'm not going to be a larger player in it, if it's not going to be a big part of my gameplay, then I don't really want to put a lot of extra time into, and certainly not the money to go FOMO buying back in. Admittedly, I did have a look at the market. I thought, is it worth me just buying one back and just okay. But no, it was, I think, floors around $40 and around 100,000 UpX, something along those lines, which for me just isn't, the value isn't there for what I intend on doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of wasn't interested in them at the beginning, and then I got bit by the FOMO and I went crazy with them. And then after the first cycle, yeah, you're right. The ones that I had just didn't match with my lifestyle, in air quotes, or however you want to say it. I certainly wasn't going
Yeah,
to set an alarm and get up at every 8 hours or every 12 hours or whatever the hell it was. I wasn't playing
yeah,
around with that. So sold out of everything on the back end, but kind of over this kind of down period, I've rejigged into having 3 of the green ones, which is on a 24-hour cycle. So that I can kind of manage.
nice.
I did just before
Yeah,
we got kicked off this morning, though, because it's something that Swaley said the other night stuck in my head where he said, kind of, it was a bit tongue in cheek with the whole earned sparklet versus given sparklet or purchase sparklet. He's like, well, what's going
yeah.
to hold more value, the Protum that you've had to, farm, or the Protum that you can just buy off the store, which is a great bloody question.
It is.
So I
Yes.
had a bit of a USD balance there, and I was thinking, the little brainworm is thinking, well, why don't you? They're going to sell the Protum. Why don't you just sell your while it's peak fever for everyone want to get back into totems, and the green
Yeah.
24-hour ones are one of the most popular sought after ones. Why don't you flip out of
Yeah.
those and just freaking buy some Protum and just sit on it? So
That's smart. So you've done that, or you're still sort of on the fence with it?
what I did is because I had a sizable USD balance there from the Paris, all my Paris flips. I was kind of thinking, do I put some of that into Proton? So this morning I just withdrew it. So it's not even in my account anymore. It's on the way to Ben's bank
Stop the
account.
temptation.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that's off the cards now. So obviously, I'm definitely not going to buy Proton directly from the store, like as far
Yep.
as putting me credit card details or bank account details there. So
Yep.
now, if I want it, then I have to activate those 3 green ones, and I have to go through the process. So that's what I'll do.
Right.
It has all started, but I'm gonna take Swali's advice on that one too, and I'm gonna wait at least 4 days before I kick mine off, just to see how things have changed with the feeding schedules and whatnot. So
I was wondering if that, because I've noticed a lot of the the people that had put together all the information from the last one have brought up and put out the charts, which is helpful if everything stays the same. So
yes,
but we know that
yeah, I will.
things don't always stay the same.
That they don't. Yeah, I will. I'll just bring these up quickly too. I can't link these, but if you go and anybody who's listening or watching, if you go and follow Nosif or Shackle, another two that I'm going to show, you can find these pretty easy. If you can't, for whatever reason, send me a DM. I can point you in the right direction as well. But this is an example of the one that Nosif and the Red Hook team put out. Um, I guess if you're a brand new player, you're going to look at this and your head's going to explode. But once you get in there, it's pretty easy to work out. Okay, I've got a Python. It's a fantasy. It's a green one, and it's a medium or whatever the hell it is. Okay, now this feeding schedule here, that's from the last one. There are penalties, more severe penalties now for underfeeding. So for myself personally, assuming that the data doesn't change, which I'm sure they're going to update it, but I'd be looking to I'd probably feed, what's the lowest is 33, it says here, up to 53. The first feed, I'd feed at 50 and just see, if it says, oh, you fed too much or you fed too little, and just play it by ear from there. So they've got a good one, and Shakdalen as well has a good one here. It seems like she worked with Umbrella Boy on this one to get this information out there. So yeah, there is a lot of info out there to help you. If you haven't already activated yours, I'd suggest maybe hold off for a day or two just to see if and how these get updated, because Upland likes to change things up, and they might not have given us all the information about those changes that have been made.
Yes, definitely.
All right. I think that keeps us up to date with the contemporary news, unless there's anything else going on that you'd want to touch on.
No, I think we're pretty well up to date with the most of what's happening. Some racing and things going on, but neither you or I are right into the racing, so yeah.
Yeah, usually I get done with these shows recording on the Saturday. As soon as I press end record, then we get an announcement. There's something else. That's usually the way it goes. So I'll try and keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
But we'll dive into you and what you've got going on. Now, I have touched onto your details previously as part of the Upland Down Under podcast, but if people didn't catch that one, we'll just have a bit of a squizzy. Where are you? Here you are. Oh, where's that gone, Tiny? That's weird. So we'll look at your progress chart. Oh, first of all, we'll go back up. So yeah, you've been playing since July 8th, 2022. Well, I guess how did you find out about Upland? You said you're from a crypto background, so was that the tie in there?
No, it had absolutely nothing to do with crypto. And when I joined it, I didn't even realize it was a crypto until I started researching
Really?
NFTs and things. So yeah,
Cool.
it was purely me and the wife were actually watching some sort of futuristic documentary about how people would connect and do things in the future and whatnot. And I'd heard the term metaverse thrown around a few times. Some of those celebrities and things in the metaverse. We're talking about things and
Sandbox and whatnot.
exactly. And so I just thought to myself, that sounds really familiar to something that might be going on over there. So I just started looking around and researching metaverses and thought to myself, this could be the early stages of a change, of a shift on how people do things. I'd like to be a part of it in one way or another. So I had no idea that we could make money from it or any of these sorts of things. It was just a case of just wanting to be a part of something new. So that's how I stumbled upon it. And then I just sort of was researching different ones, and Upland was the most affordable / seemed the easiest to understand, I guess.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's a different take for sure. Very good. Now, you're in Cheese's Bronxdale node. How's things going over there in Cheeseland?
Yeah, so I got my Metaventure over there, and we were talking, and she's she originally had wanted to make a push for collection. I think it was about a month or two ago, but had some personal things, and it just said she's just putting it on the back burner for now, and we'll look back at that later. So nobody else has approached me to ask to do anything, so I leave it there, sort of thing. I actually forget about where my address is most of the time, to be honest. So if somebody requests me to change it and I'm not doing something for somebody else, then I just leave it where it is. So.
Very good. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that one. Like, we were chasing it in Midtown Terrace a little bit there, and then it became very obvious that it's just a game of attrition at that point. You just got to wait it out, and eventually you'll just get to the number one spot by default.
Yes. Yep.
What else you got going on?
The first
Go
time
ahead.
I participated in the first time I participated in any of that was when St. James came out, and and I still believe to this day, I think we were the quickest from a city, a hood being released to making collection. That we definitely raised some eyebrows and got people talking about how we managed to get up there so quick. Um, but I think
Yeah,
just because there
that
was nothing there, all the Metaventures were dropping, everything was all happening literally at once for us. We'd brought in quite a lot of spark, and sort of, I guess it was just because we had that new feature where nothing was built, so we were able to maximize absolutely everything. So others, and there was a lot of talk on that where it definitely didn't factor in things like Midtown Terrace, where you'd already done a lot of building, and will put at a disadvantage because you can't get that new build up. So yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely eye opening, and it was actually a good insight into, and this is one of those things that everybody's, I think we may even be 2 years down the track. Like, when's the second stage where the node versus node thing, where the different neighborhoods were going to compete to get to the next level of collection status? And we're thinking, well, obviously for St. James, I think you might have got collection status with your build percentage. It was only like, might have been under or around 20% or something
Yeah.
mad. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
just never going to be able to compete with that in the future because you still got 80% to play with. Obviously, that would have
Yes.
kept ticking over a little bit, but Midtown Terrace is already tapped out before we even got started. So, yeah,
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
bizarre, really.
I definitely think that they need to change the how they calculate that to for those that have already done their building, that they give the opportunity for those to get across the line. So
Yeah, it's definitely a weird one. Anyhow, now you've got a very cool block explorer. Just pulling that up then. What's the story behind this one?
that is a NFT version of my tattoo, my first ever tattoo. Actually, I used to play guitar with my father. After he passed, I got that. Um,
Cool.
I was talking with Metaverse Eddie, and
Mm.
we were just talking some stuff in Discord one day, and he just happened to say, "Send me a photo of that." And next minute, he sends me this, and he says, "Apply for your director with that." And I was just blown away because that has a lot of, obviously, personal meaning to me. So, which blows me away when I see some director block explorers being sold. Like, there's no way mine gets sold. There is no price on that. That is a priceless thing minted on the blockchain, that holds, a lot of sentimental value, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a bit of a shame that they didn't allow they didn't keep the point where you could put that little story in. I know I was lucky enough with mine. I was early enough in the day that I could get a story associated with mine, but it would have been nice if they had have kept that.
That would have been good to have a backstory on it. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough that because I was really skeptical about actually putting it in because I'd seen a lot of block explorers coming out at the time that looked nothing
Ooh.
what people were putting in. And I was like, oh, if they massacre this, it's just going to be like devastating, you know. But I believe there was just a changeover of who was doing it or how it was being done, or I'm not exactly sure on the circumstances. And he said, no, you got a pretty good chance of this coming out looking good. And they knocked it out of the park. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it could go two ways there. They could either completely butcher it and it's horrible, or 6 months down the track you'll see somebody else floating around and they've got one that's a red one. That's a red guitar and it's exactly the same. So
Yes. Yeah.
yes, I know all about that. All right. What else you
Yes,
got?
I've heard about that
27
one.
mil. Yeah, because I complain about it incessantly.
Yeah.
27 mil net worth. 228,000 in your bank account at the moment. Are you recovering from Paris, or did you have a little balance there?
So yeah, I didn't really do Paris, so to say. I bought the bundles because I was in my operation the day that all this was starting to happen. So I was able to do the morning before my operation. I was able to buy a couple of those bundles, and I thought, well, in the event that I'm not awake or coherent for the release, I'll buy a couple of bundles and at least I get something in Paris and that'll do. Not that I expected it to mint out, but I just didn't want to have to try to figure out what's going on later. Grab a couple and I've got something there. The bundles, I'm sort of still on the fence. I think the UpX ones were good value. The USD, I've always stuck away from the USD prop bundles prior to this one, and based on what happened this time, I'll continue to stick away from them. There was definitely not the value there, in my opinion, in the USD, but the UpX ones were good. You got your mint value in UpX, so it was basically like you just went and minted a couple of randoms, which was good. So.
Yep. Alrighty. And just looking at your progress charts, what'd you get up to? You got up to 600 properties at one stage. Bit of rebalancing there, was it? Or did you cash something out? Oh, no, because your net worth in that kept climbing.
Yeah, so that was rebalancing, I believe, from depending on the time there. So, like I say, I started in Chicago and was just doing all my random buys, just buying anything. And then when I started to convert to Queens, I believe would have been probably where that sort of sell off happened, and then started
Yep.
buying back in Queens after selling off.
And you kind of started. Well, you didn't do too bad out the gate. Your mint net worth and your property's net worth very close together. Bit of separation there. Very separated here. That's probably, was that you buying up the Queen secondary? I imagine if you're making a web.
Yeah, most likely. A lot of the Queen's props you had to buy where the price was appealing. They were still only maybe 3,000 UpX mints, but you were paying 7,000 UpX for it. So when you buy 100 of those, that definitely affects. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And your graphs have got much closer together and very much tracking in line with each other now. Another bit of a sell-off there, March this year, where you reduced your property count by a significant amount, 200 or something dropped.
That was selling off
There.
Queen's Web. Once I stopped hunting, it just became too time consuming. I was happy with the amount of spark that I had. I'm able to do what I set out to do, and so I become more focused on getting that yield up. So I was selling for a mixture of UpX and USD, was basically just trying to figure out what was for each property, what was going to be the better option, and then went and bought up a lot of different collections. And so I went from, I think I was somewhere in the vicinity of maybe about 300,000 a month, and then after that reshuffle, I went up to around about 430. So for no extra
Nice.
dollars in and just reshuffling, I put an extra 30% yield. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's a smart move if you can do it for sure. You still got plenty in Queens. Is that you just slowly filtering them out if and when you need to?
pretty much, it's just that there's a lot there that you're just not. I'm going to have to take a loss to sell. The
Yeah.
market's shifted quite a lot, and I'm just not willing to. There's no need to. I don't need the UpX. I don't have anywhere else to park it.
Yep.
So it's just there's some node props in there and stuff as well, a couple of collections and whatnot. And yeah, every so often, if I think I'm bored, I feel like doing something, I'll go do 5 or 6 hunts just for the sake of it. So I just sort of leave it there on a just in case.
Nice. And yeah, only a few properties in Paris, and looks like you went at least reasonably deep. 49 properties in St. Denis.
Yes, so I happened to come out of I couldn't sleep on the day of the after the operation, so I happened to be awake for the release, and I sort of had a quick look. We were still able to teleport,
Mm.
and I was sort of looking around, and I just saw value there in Saint Denis. Uh, there was such low mint prices for such good sized props, and being that close vicinity to Paris, I saw it being a manufacturing / retail hub there, because naturally
That's a good point.
in Paris it's far more expensive to purchase factory and showrooms. So I went around and grabbed a few that I could, and I got lucky. I don't think a lot of people went there straight off, so I managed to mint multiple around the train station. I minted one for 25,000, sold it for 100,000 like 10 minutes later. So that was
Nice.
the best sale I've made in the long term when you're talking percentage. So yeah, and that sort of just fueled me to go, okay, there's going to be buyers in this market eventually. There's a lot of FFA, very limited other props. So I went around and just bought them, and I've been selling a bit of a mixture of USD and UpX, and doing quite well. So the plan so far seemed to be working out.
Nice. And we'll just touch on a few of the other bits and pieces you got going on. Now, we already talked about your Block Explorer, but you've only got 2 other Block Explorers, so that's obviously another avenue that you're not super interested in. Although you do have a
No, not
Bakersfield
really.
Bruce, so there must be a story behind that.
No, that's just something I was just like, that's pretty cool. So I purchased that and just never got rid of it, basically. Um, yeah, no, for me, uh, there's no real use to them, at least at the moment. There's no earnings to it. There's no reason to earn. Um, there's for me, there's just no real reason to buy them. Some people like them. They like what they look like. They collect them. Some people speculate what you can do with them in the future. For me, I kind of just go off what I can see, and I don't see value in them personally. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, very good. And I think that might be a good segue into ticking over to what you are actually very much personally interested in and engaged in, and that is, of course, Ace Collectables. Um, I'll just bring that up now. You got a lot of cool products. I know I went over just recently and picked up a few of these different stands, which reminds me I need to move them around and set them up a bit better. Whole bunch of showrooms and adding more all the time. Maybe you could speak to your journey into, because you said you're from a crypto background, but then you got involved in Upland not specifically because it was crypto, but there was kind of aspects of the metaverse, and you know you've dived straight into that as one of the premium manufacturers out there. How and why did you get involved in the whole manufacturing process?
So yeah, very early on, and that's why I started to do the hunting once I had this talk with the mate that contacted me. I sort of thought to myself that there's no point being an early adopter of something if you're not taking advantage of the things that are available to you. And very early on, I saw an opportunity, and I thought to myself, long term, I think being part of the creation process will be important for making new contacts, for progressing further in to be able to do certain things. So I just wanted to be part of creating in one way or another. Truth be told, in real life, creativity really has never been my thing. Apart from playing guitar, I've never been artistic. I've never been a very overly creative person, you could say. So this was new grounds for me, which I found interesting. Taking an idea and being able to turn it into something was really cool. I thought it was, I love the fact that Upland gives us the opportunity to do these sorts of things. So coming up with different concepts and things and whatnot, like you've done with Samurai Aquatics, so that's how it started for me. And so before we could manufacture, I just had my showroom. I started with one in Queens. I built a factory for what may be in the future. But I very quickly realized, I was just sort of buying and selling off the market and making deals with other people and haggling, and as you do. And very quickly I realized I needed more showrooms. Sorry.
Yes, you're right.
And many people are like, hey, I'm in Chicago, I don't want to travel to Queens. Can I just make an offer on something and whatnot? And we know the offer process and how painful that can be. And so I realized, okay, one showroom is not enough. So I set out either again buying off secondary or building and started what it is today. So
it's very cool. I'll bring this up here. So we're looking at your factory now in Queens. Is that your main production factory?
Yeah, this was my original Ace Productions factory. So this was the first one of them all. Then there's Nashville and Miami, and there's a small one in St. James.
Yes, and you're being very smart with this. So I think it was Laban reached out to me recently, and it's a trap, isn't it? Like, you've only got 35 items in your production queue. I know at one stage in my production queue, I might have had 300 or something ridiculous, and I needed to unstake some out of the factory to put into a building project, and then you got to manually X out of each one of those individually. It's one of those massive pain points.
Correct. I generally, just in the event that something comes up and I'm not able to get there for a couple of days, I generally put around 2 to 3 days worth of production stuff there. In the event that I do need to remove things, it's not such a painful process.
Yep, absolutely. So just looking at your Queen showroom as well, plenty of items in there, and I was just sneaky peeking at your one in London as well. So you've got how many items have you got up now? It seems like you've got a crap ton different items.
So around, I think 26, I believe, something like that. There's a couple that haven't been released yet. I'll touch on them at a later date because I'm looking to try to give them a purpose. So I haven't sort of announced anything or spoken on that yet. So yeah, those my posters actually need to be updated to put these couple of new things that have come in, because the Pegasus and Minotaur as part of the Ace Mythical, I wanted something branded.
Yep.
So I came up with these, and Charles did a great job of those, I think.
Is that maybe you could speak to that process as well, because you're somebody who you wanted to get involved. You clearly had a plan, an idea for your branding and the items you wanted to do. Um, what's the old saying? Ideas are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Uh, it's a big step to go from that to actually, okay, here's your item. You've gone through the submission process and now you're manufacturing. Um, there are a lot of steps in between there, especially you're not the same with me. I'm not the one actually creating these assets in Blender or whatever.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
how did you broach that whole thing? What are some of the highs and lows of that whole experience? How'd you go with all that?
Yeah, so it was. There's a story that I don't get into publicly for my
Yep.
very first ones, but once I started, you know, we had Upland ready assets and things come out when it become more public, and they're great. You know, they really allowed people like myself and others that have no idea where Blender's concerned. They were able to take our ideas and turn them into something, and very affordable prices. And so, yeah, that's basically how I just sort of looked around, saw that I needed people on my side to do those sorts of things. I've since the last few things that have come out, Charles from Genie Metaventures has started designing some of my stuff, and he's doing some great work. Um, and yeah, so again, it's all down to community, and you know, if you're sitting there not in contact with people and not talking to people, I think you're doing Upland wrong, in my opinion.
Mm.
Community is really is key. The people that I've met and the things I've learned and the connections I've made just from being part of communities and talking to people is really a big part of how I've got from where I started to where I am now. So
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I I guess it goes back to that whole thing we're talking about, where we both kind of sucked on our teeth a bit about, imagine being a new player coming into you know, to the thing now. Okay, you've seen the system they got on BitGet or whatever, and you're like, okay, what is this about? Um, I can't imagine the learning curve that people these days have to get on board with.
well, I think they're at a bit more of an advantage there because we've been through the teething process. You know, it was very tedious at the start. There was long waits and whatnot, which I know you waited a whole lot longer than we waited, but it seemed like a long time waiting without really much info at the start. And that process has got a whole lot better. You know, when Metaventures first were becoming a big thing, you could wait 6 to 12 months for a Metaventure, whereas now, generally speaking, in under a few days, sometimes literally overnight, your Metaventure's ready. So they've
Yep.
really perfected that process. And you know, at the very early stages, it was taking 6 months somewhere in that area to get something through, and then only to get a rejection letter. You know, that become very, very frustrating very quickly. But some stuff got through, and you were just like, well, okay, some got through, let's just keep moving forward. Yeah, so but I always said that I believe that, you know, what they did with the Metaventures eventually will happen with the UGC items, where it's like we're going through a teething process, and eventually they'll more perfect that, and things will happen a lot smoother, which I think we're finding out now. I think with the whole switch of everything, the last submission than usual, but prior to that, we were getting some things in under 2 weeks. Um, but you know, you go back to waiting a year, that's amazing. So or at the very
Yep.
least, if something was getting rejected within 2 weeks, you knew, you go, okay, back to the drawing board, fix it up a little bit, whatever, and back in a few weeks later you could have it in, which in the grand scheme of things, waiting a month for something really is not excessive. But I always say patience pays off here. if you have a plan, if you have a game plan, and you just actively work towards it, and you have the patience to go through all of these teething processes and don't throw in the towel because everything's not going exactly as it might. Patience really does pay off, and we've seen that with many guys that have come on board now. Successful UGC Metaventurers now.
Yes, absolutely. We're just breaking up a bit there. I don't know. Maybe people are waking up and plugging in their internet, so our shitty Australian internet's struggling a little bit. I'd be interested in your take on the submission process. I don't believe I've submitted an item for approval for well over a year. How has that improved? Is it still the click the form and you got to fill out all the bloody things, or have you noticed an improvement, or is it much of a muchness the same?
So I actually haven't done there is a new system, and it's done through Sandbox. I actually watched a mate submit one the other day. A little bit of a teething process, I guess, because the process has changed a little bit, but I think it's actually going to be a lot easier once you understand the process. It was like originally even doing the form was a pain for me because I'm like, what's an LOD and what's this and where do I put this, and if I put it in the wrong file, it's going to be no good, because that form doesn't tell you you're putting the wrong file in the wrong one. So whereas this one here, it literally does. It comes up with everything. Once you put the files in, there's a validator in the Sandbox, and it will tell you if there's any errors and what the error kind of relates to. So if there is an issue with the actual asset itself, you can go back to the person, or if you're a creator, you can do it yourself. Or maybe you've just put the wrong files in the wrong place, and that's why, sort of thing. So I definitely think I've not personally used it, but I sort of watched someone do it. So next time I do one, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve for me, but it looks like once you understand it, it is a far better way to go about it, it seems. So any issues should be identified at the submission process. So we should hopefully see less rejections potentially with this because of that, assuming you've followed Upland's guidelines.
Yeah, it's kind of automating that system and putting more power into your own hands because you're right. It was a case previously where you'd submit an item only to find out 3, 4, 6 months later that there's some error and resubmit. And so that takes away all of that teething problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, what about your take now? You're somebody who produces assets at a very high production level or something. It's clearly you spend a lot of time making sure that the stuff you're putting out there is at a certain standard. That's not, in many cases, with the explosion of UGC, there's a lot of stuff where people, I don't know their stories, of course, but it appears that people are just rushing to get anything out, and we always knew this was going to happen, that we're just going to get flooded with all sorts of stuff that you look at it and like, what the hell is this? And couldn't you put like an extra 10 minutes or an extra couple of hours into it? Or, what's your whole take on that side of things? And I guess that's also to do with pricing, with the race to the floor on pricing almost.
I think it's a learning curve. I think people, sort of think, okay, this is what I want, and probably they're the newcomers to it, where they're just like, let's just get it in game, and more often than not, they're probably going to look back in 6 months' time and go, wow, why did I bring that out? Sort of, but I guess they've opened the doors to allow anyone to do it. So these things will and can and will happen. Potentially, maybe there's new designers where they're just trying to create things themselves, where they don't either have the money to go and pay somebody else. We don't all have that luxury. So I guess that's maybe they're just evolving their abilities in Blender, which on the flip side to what I said could be a good thing, because they could look back and go, wow, look where I came from to look where I am now. And also those that support them can go, wow, look at the progress in your work. So I guess there's always a couple of ways to look at things there.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't really reflected on that. If you're somebody who is just playing around with Blender and you're excited to get your first piece out, yeah, that makes total sense. Yep, that as your
Yeah.
skill level improves or whatever, you're naturally going to improve the quality of your assets and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, what
Yeah.
about your kind of workflow process? So you have an idea for something like the Pegasus. Are you sketching that out and passing it on, or are you just basic notes? I'm horrendous myself for really shitty notes and really shitty scribbles. What's your process there?
I'm pretty. One of my food stands. I actually I went on to like a draw board kind of thing, and I mean, it looked like my 8-year-old daughter had tried drawing for the first time in her life.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, please don't make it look like this, but this is just the concept idea, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, basically for the mythical idea, I wanted to bring something more limited out with my branding on. And that's for me probably the hardest part is coming up with the idea, sitting down, brainstorming, not just the idea, but you got to then, okay, this is the base idea, but then what actual elements are going to be to it. I sort of looked at, then you've got to sort of go into the game and start seeing what is out there, what isn't. I don't want to do things that other people are doing. I like to try to do my own thing.
Yep.
And so I came up with this mythical idea, creating mythical creatures. And then it was a case of, okay, how are we going to form them? Are we going to, what sort of platform we're going to put them on? Naturally, with the whole amount of triangles and things you can have, it limits the amount of detail you can have. I did want more detail than is there, but
Yep.
you kind of have to find a happy medium. So if you've got a good designer, which I love working with Charles. He will sort of give me a base idea and go, okay, well, this is what I've come up with so far. What sort of
Yep.
changes and where would you like to see it go? And we just do a lot of back and forth until we come up with a final design. So
Nice. And now you've got are these the only two from the mythical series out at present?
so far, yes, yeah. So the idea is that I want 5 in that line,
Yep.
and so at the moment there's just the 2, and I already have ideas set out for the next one, but just waiting at the moment. I've put a fair few things out there, and I'm just sort of letting things settle a little bit before I bring some more stuff out. And yeah,
Nice.
so those are
And it
the
is
next world
your
assets.
sub-merchant. Yeah, so you're kind of sub-merchanting there for them.
Yes, yes. So I spoke with John, and they're offering quite a good incentive for people to be selling them. I generally speaking don't sell other people's items.
Yep.
There's no sinister thing there. It's just the whole offering and buying different things, and then prices can alter, and you can get stuck holding
Oh,
their
yeah.
assets because they decided to drop prices and so on and so forth, which is the market and it's understandable and it happens. But for those reasons, I generally speaking just stick to selling my own stuff. Every so often, somebody will contact me and say, "Do you mind putting, I've got X asset. Can you put it up for sale?" More often than not, once I outline the process to them, and then the fee is going to be involved with getting the money back to them and so on and so forth, more often than not, I say, look, it's probably just better just selling it on the open market, because we still know the pain of you can't just list in somebody else's showroom. The escrow isn't there yet.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a pain. Maybe that's a good segue over into the transportation mechanics that we currently have. We still very much have this airdrop situation where we can, for free, move our map assets from our factories to our showrooms anywhere in the world that we have a showroom. that's a very it's a very cheap process as far as having to spend, because you don't have to spend anything. But my God, is it time consuming?
Yes, hence why there's probably a couple of hundred sitting there at Nashville at the moment. Not only do I not have a lot of place to put them, it is very time consuming moving them around. It would be. I wish they would listen and just create a system where we could just move 10 or 20 or 30 at a time and place them on the prop and be done. That would make things so much easier, but unfortunately they haven't. um, on that for the moving, that's again why I'm slowly but surely setting up factories around the place to minimize that transport when that does come in, because we do know at some point in time it will come in. Me personally, I'm not looking forward to it. I I think it's going to slow everything down, because people are talking about, okay, yeah, you're going to have to move things from your factory to your showroom, but I'm more thinking about consumers, that the guy that comes in and buys 2 tiles from me because that's what he can afford based on his account size, but he's trying to design his property and whatnot, and how much of a turn off that's going to be when every time he wants to buy a couple of tiles, he's got to organize transport and wait for them and so on and so forth. And then in the event that he decides he's maybe selling that property or wants to move them to a different property because he's got another idea and so on, how
Good
much of a
point.
pain in the ass that is going to be. And it's going to
Mm.
deter. I just, yeah, there's going to be a massive teething process there. I think if anyone doesn't expect a massive drop in sales, they should, because
Yeah,
it's
that's a
going to be
good
a pain
point.
in the ass.
Yeah, well, we kind of knew that there's the cargo issue with transportation. Like if you come and buy 2 tiles, well, you got to either you have a vehicle yourself and it can fit within the cargo hold, or you got to employ a third party. But yeah, I hadn't even thought of that whole system where, yeah, you're right. For selling a property, it is a bit of a pain in the ass. Now you go to sell a property and you realize, oh, wait, I've got 10 items on there. Okay, now I've got to move these bloody things. But you add the transportation to the mix with that. Yeah, wow. Hmm,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely, and like I say, I've heard a lot of people talk different things, but no one really ever touches on those sort of things for the end
Yeah, yeah.
consumer. We're all just
Mm.
thinking about it as the manufacturer, and it may be making life a little easier for us having somebody else take care of that, but for other people, it's like they don't want to have someone take care of that. They don't want to have to be contacting everyone to try to move a couple of things here and there. And like I say, I think it's really going to slow things down for those players that just like to acquire small amounts as they can. I see a lot of it come around. I see players on quite a regular basis come and buy 2 lamps and 1 tile, and I sort of check out where they're doing, and they're slowly but surely building up a property. Are they going to have the patience to wait and save up to buy the entire design they want? Are they going to stuff around with the transportation, or are they just going to go, you know what, stuff it, I can't be bothered? And I think there's going to be a mix of that. um, yeah,
Uh, you know what, though? If I reflect on what am I doing today after I get off this call, I'm going to go and have breakfast with the family, and then we're going to get in the car and drive 30 minutes north to go to a bamboo specialist nursery. We're going to pick up 4 bamboo plants that we're going to struggle to fit in the car with the wife and the 3 kids.
yeah,
We're going to drive home. They're being planted in an area that I've just built new retaining walls for. I'm currently painting those retaining walls. I've had to make 3, 4 trips to Bunnings. I couldn't go and just magically pick up all of the materials from there. I had to get in the car. I had to go and get them. I couldn't overstock the car. So there's some real world kind of twinning going on there.
I do agree, but I think people come to the internet to save them. When you go to buy something on the internet, what do you do it for? Convenience.
Yeah, yeah, convenience. Yeah,
So it sort of really takes away that convenience, and as a
yeah.
lot of consumers like convenience, that's again why I expanded my showroom, so people don't have to travel to different cities in order to
Yes.
acquire my stuff, because a lot of people just won't. They just go, meh, I'll just either not buy it or buy this because it kind of is similar or something, and it's in this city. So yeah, I think convenience, it's definitely going to take that convenient factor out. There's going to add another layer of things that people have to do to get it, especially if we start talking transportation where you have to drive to it in the first place just to even get there. Because to me, logistics transport doesn't make sense bringing it in before general transport is like compulsory. So
Yeah.
when they first spoke about it, they said that their first iteration of it is traveling between cities. Eventually, it will be traveling within the city as well. And I believe there's going to come a time where you cannot just send your block explorer across the city in an instant. How that affects city releases, I'm not sure whether they'll turn that off or how that plays out, but that part I'm not sort of really thinking about. But I believe that eventually you will. And it doesn't make sense to me to bring out having to move everything around if you can still send across a city like Queens or LA, hundreds of kilometers in an instant, but you've got to spend hours or days or weeks trying to move assets. That just doesn't compute to me. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how they roll this all out. For me, it was kind of like, I don't see logistics coming until I see the personal transport evolving more. At that point of time, I'll start to try to gauge how they're doing that and how to focus on planning for the future.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But then we've seen, we knew that transportation mechanics were coming. We've kind of had glimpses of that, a car city only release, South Lake Tahoe. But then we get to Paris and it's like, actually, you can just freaking zoink straight there. That's just all completely out the window. So
yeah, that
what the hell?
definitely. I mean, it worked beneficial for me, so I can't complain too much. But I saw the points in the community of like, hang on, they're trying to make things more realistic, and then you can just teleport. Like, okay, all right, well, fair enough. That's how they played it. We'll just roll with it. So yeah, that.
Yeah. I think
Maybe
it's
I'll
probably
start
one of those
creating
things.
teleportation map assets.
Doctor Who TARDIS machines or something. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's one of those ideas that went up on the whiteboard. Okay, transportation mechanics. People are going to have to physically move their items. Okay, that's the idea. And then 6 months, a year down the track, okay, now how do we actually do that? Oh, crap. It's a lot more complicated than we think. Like, even just getting our vehicles to track and stay on the roads or something like that. What I'm wondering too is, okay, say we've got the transportation mechanics are in, it's tracking on the roads. I've got my semi-trailer. Well, maybe I can't just block up the street out the front of me factory lot for however long it takes to load this thing up. Are people going to get stuck behind? Are you going to have space on your factory lot to park the truck? A lot of people haven't factored that in. Who the hell knows?
And not only that, they have to get around being able to, are you going to be able to deliver something to somebody else's prop, sort of thing? Like, is it just a case of sending it to that prop and then that's where it'll unload? Or are they going to be bringing it back to their prop where it unloads and then you've got to get it from from where it's being held to there? And yeah, so I think the whole escrow system needs to be evolved first before we even consider all of this, which looking at Apex Land and how they'd created the escrow system for the structure ornaments shows that, okay, there is the ability to start doing this, which makes me think that maybe all this stuff is a little closer than we thought, because they clearly are working on this stuff in the back end and we're all not seeing it until Apex Land does something like what they've just done. So there is now an escrow system where a third party can play a part in the movement of an asset from one player to another. So yeah,
absolutely. I'd like to see a system similar to the structure ornament crates. It'd be good if, say I've got, well, not say I've got, I do have literally hundreds of items on my factory lot just sitting there needing to be moved. Well, maybe Upland can sell us small, medium, and large crates. Okay. And that crate has a certain capacity. And within the factory UI, I can pack 20 of these bloody items into that crate. And then I'm only moving that one crate. And I don't necessarily have to unpack that crate on the showroom. I could have 30 or 40 crates on the showroom property, but I'm not unpacking them until I've got room or something like that.
That's and it could be a good space saver too for those that have maybe maxed out their areas or want to be able to store more things. And you have your containers where you have your storage systems that we have actual physical containers for the containers. Kind of makes sense. So
you go to IKEA to buy your furniture. You're not strapping a whole desk on top of your roof. It comes flat packed in a little bloody box that you need to unpack later on. So it'd be fascinating to see.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they're listening to all these ideas, because that I hadn't ever even actually thought of that neither. So that's a cool idea. Yeah.
People have suggested other things like I know I've showcased this previously on the Thursday night show, where the speedway structure is actually hollow inside, and you can kind of hacky way to do it. You can put the cars in. I'd love to be able to see like a backyard shed or something. You could hide away your storage boxes, and who knows how they could do it.
Yeah.
Well, mate, we've been going on pretty long this evening. I'm sure your family's up and about and moving. I can hear my family's up and about and moving. So is there anything else we should touch on before we let you get out of here?
No, I think we pretty well covered everything. That was a good chat, mate.
All right. Well, yes, ACE has got a lot of very cool stuff going on as far as the manufacturing process, showrooms here, there, and everywhere. All of the links, of course, will be in the description. There's a link to his X account is there as well. He's got lots of promotional material there. You can check it out as well. So other than that, I'll leave the last word to you, mate.
Well, if anyone does, if you wanted to do maybe a bit of a giveaway or something, there's some assets sitting on that factory in Queens. I thought could maybe do 3 lots. We could do 2 lots of 2 carts, and do 3 of the diamond pillars. So 3 different giveaways if you want.
All right. Well, that's a good one. If you've stuck it out through the whatever we've been going in almost 2 hours, if you stuck it out this long, you've got the goss on the giveaway. So I guess we'll just get you to drop a comment in the YouTubes. Anything in particular you want them to say?
Geez, way to put me on the spot.
I was supposed to have thought about this, and I've completely forgot about it. You mentioned.
We can work it out at a future one. I don't mind. Doesn't necessarily have to be off today. I like giving some things out into the community. So maybe on one of your future shows we can tie it into that if you want.
Oh, we can do it. We can do it today. How about if you've stuck with us, if you've stuck with us for this long, there's links in the descriptions to all of ACE's showrooms. Go over and have a poke around in your showrooms and let us know what your favourite item is, or why you like it, or something like that. Drop that in the comments.
Excellent. Yep. Random comments will get prizes.
Yep. And I'll collate all of those. I'll touch on with ACE in the back end to find out exactly what we're going to give away, and we'll probably give those away. I'll run extra draws on the Thursday night show.
Perfect.
All right, mate. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, and all the best for the rest of the weekend.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us on, and we'll talk again soon.
No worries. You hang around. I'll have a chat with you after I press this big red button over here. And for everybody else, enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll catch you later. If you have an Upland NFT or Metaverse product, service, or event to promote, or you're just someone engaged in Web3 who'd like to have a chat, send me, Ben68, a DM on Discord, or drop a YouTube comment to discuss and secure your spot.